So, fam. So
let's get
today
into it.
was breaking news. A Iranian scientist was reportedly assassinated. According to several reports, the suspects are Israeli terrorists. And well, let's just start off right here. This is Javad Zarif, and Javad Zarif is actually the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And he said terrorists murdered an eminent Iranian scientist today. This cowardice, with serious indications of Israeli role, show desperate warmongering of perpetrators. Iran calls on the intel community, and specifically the EU, international community, and specifically EU, to end their shameful double standards and condemn this act of state terror. So that is flat out, he's saying it is Israel. That's the foreign minister of Iran. And then Richard Medhurst, of course, who has done stuff for Press TV as well, said that unconfirmed reports that the head of Iran's nuclear program, so Mohsen Farizadeh, has been assassinated, and Israel has assassinated at least 4 Iranian nuclear scientists to date. And he says the only democracy in the Middle East. LOL. I mean, yes, the Middle East is, this happens all the time and nobody says anything about it, especially because Israel is never held accountable to absolutely anything that they do. And so the BBC, let's start with RT, Russian media, and how they framed it, because I have several different sources, because in these events, you're always going to see multiple different sources and how they view it. But, of course, again, he's a leading Iranian scientist, and he was fatally injured. And the way this happened was in an ambush on his car outside the capital of Tehran. And this happened today, before dying from his injuries in the hospital. And this is confirmed by Iran's defense ministry. And, quote, unfortunately, the medical team did not succeed in reviving him. And a few minutes ago, the manager and scientist achieved the high status of martyrdom after years of effort and struggle. Fakhrizadeh was attacked during an armed clash between his bodyguards and unknown assailants in Absard City, Tehran province. And this is from Mer News. And you guys can click on that and you can see that they are the ones that reported that specific thing. The attack involved at least one explosion and a shootout. It added the scientist was rushed to the hospital by helicopter, of course, and then he died. And there's a little bit of video from that that Johnny's showing. And he was the Atomic Energy Organization. He was part of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran. And at first they denied the claims, but then they actually reported that that's what happened. So that's what was said according to RT. And I'm going to go on to the BBC's reporting. Just give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to say on that, Pasta?
No, I'm actually just listening and learning right now. But I saw this briefly. I was just on the phone doing election shit today.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I had a friend of mine call me. And, yeah, so this is we heard about it today. I saw Dick Medhurst put his stuff up. So, and I got a text, oh, shit's going down. And I was like, you better believe it. Can you believe what's going on with this 1% recount? Like, no. In Iran. I'm like, oh, shit. So, yeah, I'm just interested to see what's going on.
So
3 other ones, I didn't know anything about that. Wow.
Yeah, nobody knows about. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, because our media never reports on it and people don't pay attention. Okay, so this is from the BBC, and I'm just going to highlight a couple things here. He was Iran's most senior nuclear scientist. Okay, so he was a big deal, and he was actually targeted for a while. Western intelligence agencies believe Fakhrizadeh was behind a covert Iranian nuclear weapons program. And, quote, if Iran ever chose to weaponize Fakhrizadeh, would be known as the father of the Iranian bomb. This was said by one Western diplomat to Reuters in 2014. Iran insists its nuclear program is exclusively for peaceful purposes. Notice how the BBC is framing that. And there's a picture down here. A 2015 deal with 6 world powers, of course, had placed limits on its production, the Iran nuclear deal. But since President Donald Trump abandoned the deal in 2018, Iran has been deliberately reneging on its agreements. Joe Biden has pledged to re-engage with Iran when he takes over the U.S. presidency in January, despite long-standing opposition from Israel. So, the framing is that Joe Biden is going to bring back the Iran nuclear deal. And I'll tell you my opinion on what actually I think is going on with that. But This is a picture of him, and again, he was the head of Ministry of Defense's Research and Innovation Organization between 2010 and 2012. As Richard said, 4 Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated, and Iran has accused Israel of complicity in the killings. Iran has also accused the CIA working in cohesion, the US CIA working in cohesion, of course, with the Israeli intelligence Mossad, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. In 2010, of course, who was in 12, Obama was president. So this suggests that more than likely this would still be happening under a Biden presidency, considering who he's putting forth as we speak. And this is from the New York Times. And the New York Times actually admitted that Americans knew that he was a actual target. And since the New York Times constantly shuts me out, Johnny, I have the shots here. One American official specifically said, along with 2 other intelligence officials, that Israel was behind the attack on the scientists. It was unclear how much the United States may have known about the operation in advance, but the 2 nations are the closest of allies and have long shared intelligence regarding Iran. The White House and the CIA, of course, declined to comment on this matter thus far. Israel, of course, as you guys know, has long opposed the Iran nuclear deal, and they were responsible for, of course, the if you guys remember the attack on Soleimani, and of course with our bidding, and that was one of the things that the Trump administration could definitely fall. You can say the Trump administration did that. Like, that is very warmongering and very
it's Donald Trump, like he whacks people.
Yeah. But American officials will not comment on the assassination Friday morning, saying they were seeking information. But some American officials argued that the death of Mr. Fakhrizadeh, the latest in a string of such mysterious killings of Iran's top nuclear scientists, would send a chilling message to the country's other top scientists working on that program. If we can get him, we can get you too. So that's the message that apparently is being said. Now, reportedly, Mossad is likely behind this, and this is from the New York Times. The assassinated scientist had long been a target of Israel's Mossad. In 2018, you could see that Netanyahu was having an entire, he did an entire PowerPoint, entire seminar on him, and this was him singling out during on Iran's nuclear program, a speech on Iran's nuclear program in 2018. And Mr. Fakhrizadeh had long been the number 1 target of Mossad, according to several people involved in U.S. government. Israel's intelligence service, of course, their Mossad is Israel's CIA. And again, this has been ongoing as a decade and long assassination of these scientists. And Iran never actually agreed to the demands of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the United Nations Nuclear Monitoring Agency, to let their inspectors question Mr. Fakhrizadeh, saying he was an academic who lectured at the Imam Hussein University in downtown Tehran. But a series of classified reports, notably a lengthy 2000 assessment done by the CIA for the Bush administration, showed that the academic role was a cover story, and this is according, of course, to the New York Times. In 2008, his name was added to the list of Iranian officials whose assets were ordered frozen by the United States. So they saw him as a target, both
had him on the radar for a while, huh?
Yeah, both Israel and the United States saw him as a target. And the United States can try to pretend that they have nothing to do with this, but come on. We know that the U.S. and Israel are close allies. They have worked in collusion with each other. CIA, especially, as we know, has done covert missions in the Middle East with Israel to advance their vested interests. And this is, I don't think, any different. But why suspect Israel? Well, because, like, as we mentioned, they've done it before. This is the People's Mujahedin of Iran, okay? It's, just so you guys know, they're called the People's Mujahedin Organization of Iran, or the Mujahedin Khalq, and they are actually, if you look at the right over here, the opinion journals, Johnny, this organization was accused of working in tandem with Israel and with Benjamin Netanyahu to actually get rid of the Iranian leadership that was anti-Western, right? So these people were working in collusion. You can see right here. I'll read from this right here.
It's funny that they call them the People's Mujahedin. It's the same group that was in Afghanistan.
Right. So
stupid.
Deadly attacks on Iranian nuclear scientists are being carried out by an Iranian dissident group that is financed, trained, and armed by Israel's Secret Service, or Mossad. U.S. officials tell NBC News, confirming charges leveled by Iran's leaders. The group, the People's Mujahedin of Iran, has long been designated as a terrorist group by the United States, accused of killing American servicemen and contractors in the 1970s and supporting the takeover of the U.S. embassy in Tehran before breaking with the Iranian mullahs in 1980. Of course, the mullahs are the ones in charge. That's what they're called now. So the attacks which have killed 5 Iranian nuclear scientists since 2007 and may have destroyed a missile research and development site may have been carried out in the dramatic fashion, with motorcycle-borne assailants often attaching small magnetic bombs to the exterior of victims' cars, as we just saw. U.S. officials, speaking on condition of anonymity, said that the Obama administration is aware of the assassination campaign but has no direct involvement. 2 senior U.S. officials confirmed the MEK's role in the assassination, with one senior official saying, "All your inclinations are correct." A third official would not confirm or deny the relationship, saying, "It hasn't been clearly confirmed yet." All the officials denied any U.S. involvement in the assassinations. As it has in the past, Israel's foreign ministry declined to comment. As long as we can't see all the evidence being claimed by NBC, the foreign minister won't react to every gossip or report being published worldwide. But as you guys can see, this they are funded. MEK is funded and trained by Israel, which is interesting. It's kind of like similar to what happened with the white helmets.
There was always a rumor too when it came to the embassy being the prisoners that was taken there. A lot of people said, I heard a rumor back in the days, they said that they were actually doing that at the behest of Reagan and his goons and George Bush. George Bush had arranged it for them to take hostages, therefore they would force people to vote in the states. Like, Reagan said it, this would never happen under my watch. You're letting Jimmy Carter let this happen? They got our hostages there? I'd take care of this in a heartbeat. And as soon as Reagan got elected, a couple days later, Jimmy Carter had made a deal and they came home. But a lot of people had said that they were actually doing that at the behest of keeping those prisoners to help Ronald Reagan and get rid of Jimmy Carter. I mean, then it says the Mujahedin of Iran broke away from, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of, put a little weight into that theory that maybe they were already working with Israel in the United States back then. I don't know. But I did hear those talks.
Yeah. So the critics of the MEK have said that the Iranian opposition group is a, quote, totalitarian cult, voicing concern about its growing clout in the halls of power in the U.S. Capitol. Only 7 short years ago, the U.S. Department listed MEK as a terrorist organization. And I have the little bit here. Interestingly, 2 of Donald Trump's right-handed men have been on MEK's payroll. The National Security Advisor, John Bolton, which is no surprise, and the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, have both been charged hefty fees to speak at MEK rallies in the past few years. So all these people, the MEK protesters, are very supportive of Donald Trump. And other articles that I was reading, they actually prefer Donald Trump to Joe Biden, which is really interesting because either it's just interesting because they're both horrible. But it says right here, U.S. take action, mullahs must get more sanctions, the protesters chanted. So these protesters at MEK are anti-mullah, and they want to sanction sanctions for Iran, thinking that it's going against
they want that government out.
Yes, exactly, they want that government out. So again, this seems like another particularly this organization seems like another U.S. Israel-backed organization that is there to overthrow the current Iranian leadership that is in place right now. Supposedly, they hate the theocratic government of Iran. But as we know, it's not that simple at all.
Who caused that? Mossadegh.
Right, but we shouldn't be involving ourselves again
at all. We shouldn't involved ourselves in 1954.
Exactly.
It's led up to what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, fam.
No, you're entirely right. And again, it gets super complicated because we keep making it more complicated. So this is from Iranian state media, and I'm saying that because I wanted to show all different aspects and how this is being talked about. You saw the New York Times is more so framing it as, oh, we're not doing anything. But here's some American officials that say Israel's involved, that say, we know this guy was persecuted. So this happens all too often. This is on Press TV. We can just play the whole video.
Well, there was another terrorist incident that took place in Iran. It could happen anywhere in the Middle East against targeted countries. Certainly in the Middle East, Iran is the leading target of the U.S., of Israel, some of their allied regional states, the Saudis, the Gulf states, the NATO countries. Terrible stuff that goes on with no accountability ever. Nobody ever held accountable for the stuff that goes on. Well, a prominent Iranian physicist was gunned down or killed by gunfire, maybe mixed with some other activities that went on. I think he was gunned down. If I'm wrong, you can correct this in the report. But killed by, let's say at this point, an unknown assassin or assassins. Maybe Iran has some information on who is behind this. There's no question that it either was an Israeli act of murder or a U.S. CIA act of murder, or maybe they worked in cahoots with each other, which they do very, very often in the Middle East, elsewhere. Israel even operates far distant from the Middle East in service to U.S. interests in Central America, maybe in South America. It's amazing. What on earth does Israel want to get involved in those parts of the world? Well, when the U.S. asked its officials to do a favor, meaning a terrorist favor, bumping somebody off or something like that, well, Israel jumps in and does it. It also trains forces to commit crimes against humanity in other countries. That could happen anywhere in the world. But here, another prominent Iranian who threatened nobody, a peaceful individual, gunned down, murdered in cold blood, probably by the CIA or Israel, or both of them. And it happens too often, time and again. It'll happen again. It'll happen many times. Accountability maybe one day will come. I don't know if I'll ever live long enough to see it. There should be accountability. There is such a thing as international law. In the U.S. is the U.S. Constitution, and the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution mandates that all international laws are automatically U.S. constitutional law, which means its officials have to obey them. But of course they don't. They do what they please. They operate by their own rules. Israel operates the same way. So do other NATO countries, the Saudis, the Bahrainis, these people. They do whatever they please. And as long as you have Uncle Sam's okay, nobody ever says a word about it. The U.S. media say nothing about it. I'm sure there was nothing in the U.S. media about the latest Iranian casualty murdered in cold blood.
Okay, so like you said, I mean, there is it's there, but the United States isn't giving any comment on what happened. I mean, the media is talking about it, but the United States isn't really giving a comment. And if so, the media is tying it to, they're washing their hands off of it, not criticizing Israel in any way, shape, or form. He very flat out said that he believes the CIA and the in Israel often work in tandem, and they do, and it's been, of course, documented. But he believes that this is a case where that may have happened again, and it's an interesting perspective too to flat out say and to talk about the NATO countries and how we, how we the NATO countries abuse. Yeah, we're above the law. It doesn't matter.
We don't follow
and there's no accountability to this. I mean, they're targeting scientists. Now, I wouldn't say this guy is it hasn't hurt anybody or isn't a threat to anybody, because he is obviously a threat to the West if he is, pursuing interest in nuclear technology. Now, that's something I have a personal problem with, and I will say at the end, I don't think we should. I don't think it's fair to ask other countries to stop doing nuclear research on nuclear weapons when we continue to do so. It's like it's that whole motto, do as I say, not as I do.
But they always are saying they're doing nuclear testing for nuclear energy for non-military reasons. That's what they're saying. They're saying you have nuclear power plants there that you get to use for power as a source of energy. Why can't we? We have to find other ways to, energize and use, power for our country. So the fact that they didn't even go there to say, now, don't get me wrong, I don't believe it when Netanyahu or Bibi or anybody from the CIA says, well, this is the number one guy. If he's the one, if they build a bomb, they'll name it after him. I think that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? They just want to send a message. We can get to him. We'll get to you. Do not help them in any way, shape, or form. It's just it's a typical Trump wise guy hit. What he's been doing since he got in there, he wanted to whack al-Assad, Bashar al-Assad. He was like, I don't want to commit troops. I don't want to use drone warfare. I want to whack these guys. It's very unique that the president's coming using mafia style hits in his legislation.
Yeah,
sorts.
And more than Trump, I would say it's obviously he's the commander in chief. So this does fall on him. But if it is found that there is direct connections between, the neocons right now, his neocons and his goons, then there's that's it. But I believe it's more CIA covert operations, Pasta.
Yeah, and somebody also says that MEK gets funding from the Saudis as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. That's no surprise.
No
surprise to me. So this is a reaction from an Iranian MP. The Iranian MP is a nuclear scientist and former head of the Atomic Energy Organization. Okay, and he's interviewed by this journalist from Press TV. So let's start at 25 seconds, Johnny.
I just offer my hello to your audience. I would like to correct the name, Mr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, if there is any incorrect pronunciation of the name. He was assassinated in an armed struggle, and his car was stopped, and he was out of the car, and he was alongside his wife. He was moving towards Tehran when he was assassinated and assaulted. He was an atomic expert in our country, and he had been active in this field for several years, and he trained many students, and he served as a scientist in promoting nuclear energy in our country, and he had been under the supervision and under the eyes of the secret agents of the Zionist regime. And then finally they succeeded to kill him, and he was killed with several bullets.
Okay, so that's just an overview of what happened. There was an ambush. There was two cars. One car exploded. People then came out of another car. Shootout with his secret service trying to protect him, and then eventually he was shot and died at the hospital. The second part, he goes more in deep into the politics of the situation.
At this point, what were they trying to achieve by assassinating Mohsen Fakhrizadeh?
I was a target of such assassination 10 years ago, and when I was with my wife alongside Mr. Shahriari, but Mr. Shahriari was assassinated, but I could escape. It is a common target. They are going to put fear into our society in order to stop our research, strategic research, which is going to overshadow our improvements and achievements. They are going to put fear in our community by assassinating some elites in order to push us into negotiations with them. But as of past, we are going to resist strongly against these pressures, and our country is not dependent on an individual. So we are going to push our ways through these hardships and ensure our enhancement in the country.
Right. So he asked him, why does he think, they did this? And he said, they're trying to push fear, that he was also a target 10 years ago, which falls into the right timeline when there were attempts at actual killings of other scientists. I agree. It's fear, but it's also, like he said, it's an attempt to really push Iran to say, okay, fine, leave us alone. But Iran isn't going to do that. And he goes on to talk about how that is going to happen next time.
Just want to read this one comment real quick because it says, listen, and this is from Pasta Whatnot Jardula on the Rokfin, Rokfin, Pejman. What the U.S. and Israel don't understand is in Shia Iranian culture, dying in martyrdom is actively welcome. This won't
Dissuade?
disincentivize other scientists much.
Yep.
It's not going to deter them. In fact,
that's
he's
what
going to die. You're going to build a statue of me. Come kill me. I want to be the next
right.
top Iranian scientist.
Yeah.
So. Should Iran have now?
Wait, can you
we are not going to retaliate in a way they have in mind, in an inhumane way, but we are going to have some proper response to this assassination. We are going to push our way in a way which is wise. We are going to trust our God, but we are not going to commit crime against their agents. We are not going to do similar things as they did, but we are going to support freedom lovers, and we ask the freedom lovers of the world to put pressure on these criminals to put away what they are doing.
Right. So he's saying they're not going to retaliate in the same way that these people, like Israel is who they're mostly referencing, expect them to. So they, easily this could escalate into now we're going to bomb so-and-so. And this MP is saying that's not going to happen, but we are demanding that the community come out and hold these people accountable, is basically. And we saw that also with the foreign minister too, calling on these countries to condemn these actions, which never happens, because Israel, you get that automatic retort, oh, you're being anti-Semitic, you're blah 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 blah. We have to obviously get past that. But the Iran nuclear deal, plus, and I just wanted to mention that real quick, the Iran nuclear deal is lauded by many people as a really great thing that Obama did and that the Obama administration left in doing. But in my opinion, it's actually an empty and vacuous thing, because it didn't really it more so restrained Iran from being able to do the things that we are able to do. And with Donald Trump taking that out, it just kind of showcased the real relations that are actually ongoing right now. And I just don't see how, because a lot of people are saying that Biden is going to be better with Iran because he's going to bring back the Iran nuclear deal. But I feel like the Iran nuclear deal doesn't account for covert operations, and it's not going to restrain those operations. In fact, with Biden coming in with people like Blinken and Avril Haines, we're going to see this actually escalate into that way, that CIA covert operation type of way, where we're pretending that we are actually backing away when we're actually not.
Yeah, I mean it's a toss up because in certain ways
Yeah.
it lifted sanctions, it provided them, it got them back money that was owed to them. Iran, they already got that was the whole thing too. Was like when Donald Trump came in and he ripped up the deal. It's like, well, you already gave them the money, idiots.
Well, yeah.
They got all their money back that they were demanding back and released funds from banks and provided certain avenues for certain sanctions to be lifted to help them with their medicine and whatnot. So when Donald Trump ripped it up and then he put some of those sanctions back on, he put a stranglehold on it. So it's give or take here and there. You know what I'm saying? It's
I don't see Biden not putting sanctions in either, though.
Biden at the end of the day, it's kind of weird because the Democrats, Obama, Biden, Clinton, whatnot, they are pro-Israel, they're pro-Zionist. Now they wouldn't be as faithful or as helpful to Bibi that Donald Trump was like, hey, they said they're going to move the embassy.
Right.
I'm going to move it. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear a lot of friends of mine from back in Boca Raton, my Jewish friends, who said that Donald Trump has been the best president for Israel. Well, he's been the best president for the Bibi and Netanyahu government. You know what I'm saying? And I can't argue that from what they're saying.
Agreed.
But once again, we'll see. One hand washes the other. The Democrats play that tiptoe game because they get a lot of pushback from the left of the treatment of the Palestinians, whatnot.
Right.
So they try to play this whole balancing game. It's once again they're very phony about the situation.
Well, yeah,
At least
you have
Donald Trump is
AIPAC.
being who he is. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
you have APAC, you have
got a
J
lot of money
Street,
from
you
AIPAC.
have all these organizations, and of course you have literally nobody in Congress right now really fighting for Palestine. I mean, Ilhan Omar has said something regarding Israel-Palestine, as has Rashida Tlaib, but other than that, I mean, and they don't have the power to do anything anyway. So
Well, they have the power to be vocal about.
they
the
should
situation.
be more vocal, and they have been. They
very-
are the two that have been actually vocal.
It's like
but-
you told me, like it's an apartheid state. A lot of people feel that way, but I'll have a lot of people back in Boca Raton. Jewish people have been there for thousands of years. This is wrong. So it's like a very nuanced situation.
Yeah.
You got to get in there. Listen. At the end of the day, you can never excuse the behavior of the Palestinians by the Israeli government. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can tell me that would excuse that behavior. Now, are you going to say you don't have the right to exist? I wouldn't say that. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think you have the right to exist. But the way you came about, regardless of not if Jews were there, it's still a lot of nuances that need to be cleared up. We have to somehow fix this situation because this situation really here is a lightning rod for a lot of activity that comes out of the Middle East. A lot of people are upset by this particular situation here, especially the awful treatment of the Palestinians. There's no excuse, man. So
And Caitlin Johnson, just to sum up, we have a couple tweets. U.S. empire assassinates scientists, invades countries, topples governments, circles the planet with military bases, deliberately starts children to death with sanctions, threatens the world with nuclear weapons. Also the empire. Iran must begin acting like a normal country. Very true. I mean, we always vilify those that we tend to attack. And then the next one, of course.
I wanted to read it in my Caitlin Johnston voice, but next
you
time.
Want to read this one?
Well, it's
you
Dick
have
Medhurst.
you
No,
have
I don't
you
have a
have
Dick
a Dick
Medhurst
voice?
impersonation. Yeah.
Damn. All right. He said, I wonder what kind of outrage and condemnation you'd see from the international community if Iran drone striked America's top general or assassinated Israeli scientists in occupied Palestine. Apparently, it's okay to do that to non-Westerners. And again, this goes back to the whole sentiment that everybody in the East, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's the global South, they're not like everybody. Their lives don't matter when it comes to the bombing and the droning that Obama did. Their lives didn't matter, and it was a bunch of poor civilian brown people that often get killed by our foreign policy. But yet you have the Democratic Party here using identity politics of oh yay, we have a woman in power, a woman in charge of the CIA, a woman blah blah blah, and it's that sort of sentiment that is still present. Nobody in our government is really hey, Israel, this is completely wrong. You need to come out and pay for this. You need to be held accountable. Nobody in our government is doing that, and that is something really sad to say. If as he says, the situation were reversed, we would be at war. We would already be bombing whoever. This is what we do, and it's disgusting, and we shouldn't be normalizing this kind of behavior.
Well, it's the problem is too. That's the whole thing we talk about, the lack of knowledge and nuance of foreign policy from people on the left.
Yeah.
It's like this American exceptionalism. This is not okay. We have to pay attention to this. It's our foreign policy is our domestic policy, and how long does it have to go on before the chickens really come home to roost? Right? 9/11, was it real? Was it fake? Whatever the case. How long until we really see an attack on American soil and we lose our lives because we were just not paying attention to what's going on? So many people were like trying to understand what was going on 9/11. They had no clue. They didn't understand the difference between a Sunni and a Shia. They didn't know where the Mujahedin had started from. They didn't understand where Osama bin Laden was hiding. They didn't understand anything, and that is not okay. So we have to get our heads out of our you-know-what and pay attention to foreign policy right now. This is an important story Fiorella is bringing up. There's going to be some more information coming out in the next couple of days. We know that, and we're going to follow it. Also, I want to report eventually, too, as well. I got to get a report that some of the Houthis hit a Saudi oil refinery. Excuse me, I'm going to dig into that, and we'll find out what's going on.